The OnePlus 3 is built on a winning formula. Take the latest flagship hardware, make some smart compromises without skimping on quality, and offer it at a competitive price. This was enough to turn OnePlus into a household name in just a couple of years. Previous OnePlus smartphones surely had their share of issues, and these often made the headlines. The company's bold claims combined with the attractive pricing were met with strict scrutiny from the user community. Not to mention the controversial invite system meant you had to wait to get one. Well, that's no more. The OnePlus 3 is no longer as cheap as the first phone, and there is no longer an invite system. Everybody can get one, and we did, only to be amazed by the exceptional build quality and the enviable performance. One aspect that impressed us in particular was the camera, so much so that we decided we should do a full video review of it. The OnePlus 3 camera is built on a solid foundation. It has a large sensor, a bright aperture, and its high megapixel count is a breath of fresh air among the countless 12 megapixel snappers that have popped up recently. Oxygen OS comes with a straightforward camera app with the minimum set of controls by default. You get a big shutter button, a toggle to switch to the front camera, and all the modes like time-lapse, panorama, and video are tucked away in a side menu. You can swipe through them easily while shooting. Manual mode gives you intuitive slider controls over focus, white balance, ISO, and shutter speed. You don't need to adjust all these settings, you can leave some at auto. The more important point we have to make is that the photos that come out of the 16 megapixel camera phone look great and are a definite improvement over the OnePlus 2 to say the least. Detail is abundant and there's a reasonable amount of sharpening to help bring it out. Colors are nicely saturated and the white balance is accurate and predictable. Contrast is superb and dynamic range is very good. Not only that, but we also appreciate how the images are rendered, processing is mature and textures aren't over-sharpened. Vegetation looks natural too. Compared to seasoned camera phones like the Galaxy S7, the OnePlus 3 actually delivers more detail without even employing as much sharpening in post-processing. The OnePlus 3 also produces better images than the Xiaomi Mi 5, which has the same 16 megapixel Sony sensor. There is no laser autofocus like on the OnePlus 2, but the 3 has face detect autofocus instead. While it's no Galaxy S7 in this respect, it's still one of the fastest camera phones we've seen, and what's more, it's consistently good enough in low light. As for the negatives, there really isn't that much to complain of. The extreme corners are slightly soft, photos come out noisy, with a lot of grain, even when there is plenty of light. The aperture is not as wide as on the recent flagships, so in poor light the phone has to ramp up the ISO quicker than those other phones to keep things nicely exposed, but we're happy with the results. The camera leans on its optical image stabilization system in these cases, and the shutter speed can go quite low to capture more light. Low light photos came out their best when the dynamic denoise feature kicked in. You have no control over when that happens, but when it does, photos come out amazingly clean. It seems the phone decides whether to use the feature based on how steady you keep it when shooting, but we couldn't verify that. The camera also has an unusual HD toggle. In our experience, it didn't seem to do that much to deserve its prominent spot in the viewfinder, as it ramped up the contrast and clarity only a notch higher than the default preset. The Auto HDR mode, on the other hand, is helpful as usual and helps bring out more detail from the shadow areas. The front-facing camera is a high-res 8 megapixel unit which produces nice images. Sure, there is no screen flash, but it has a smile shutter which automatically takes a mugshot every time you smile. 4K video is smooth and very detailed. It has excellent dynamic range and colors just like the photos from the camera. The camera relies on its optical stabilization to smooth out any jitters. There is also additional electronic image stabilization, but that only works in 1080p mode and comes at the expense of a narrower field of view. Overall, the OnePlus 3 is shaping as a convincing camera phone. We're glad to see that the company has not cut any corners in this particular department. Photos and videos vary from very good to superb, depending on the shooting scenario. In a favorable light, the OnePlus 3 can match up or perhaps even outshoot the Galaxy S7 thanks to its higher megapixel count and arguably better processing at pixel level. If a great camera is on your must-have list for a new smartphone, the OnePlus 3 should definitely be considered. It's a camera phone that well deserves that name regardless whether you're into photos, selfies, or video. Don't miss checking out our full OnePlus 3 review over at gsmarena.com.